wound injuries. Words simply cannot express the impact of this event to the law enforcement and the first responder community. Before our speakers come to share with you today, I want to take just a moment to recap the events of the last nearly 24 hours. On Monday, April 29th, 2024, members of the United States Marshals Fugitive Task Force were attempting to serve an active felony warrant on a male in a home in the 5000 block of Galloway Drive. During the encounter, the male discharged a firearm, striking multiple officers. These officers requested immediate assistance. As additional officers responded to help, the gunfire continued and more officers were struck. The male suspect exited the residence with a firearm and was shot by law enforcement officers in the front yard of the residence. In total, 8 law enforcement officers were struck by gunfire. These officers were rushed to area hospitals. 3 of the 4 injured task force officers were pronounced deceased at the hospital. On behalf of the entire Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, our condolences go out to the Department of Adult Corrections and the United States Marshal Service. We grieve with you, and our prayers are with you. One of the 4 injured CMPD officers, Officer Joshua Iyer, a 6-year veteran of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, fought for his life for several hours before succumbing to his injuries yesterday evening. A law enforcement procession escorted Joshua to the medical examiner's office late last night. The investigation into this incident remains active and is being led by the CMPD Homicide Unit. Many details remain uncertain at this point. Our speakers this morning include Chief of Police, Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, Johnny Jennings, Director of the United States Marshal Service, the Honorable Ronald Davis, Governor of the great state of North Carolina, the Honorable Rory Cooper, Attorney General of the great state of North Carolina, the Honorable Josh Stein, the Mayor of the City of Charlotte, Mayor Vi Lyles. We will take questions at the end of all of the speakers, so please hold them until then. First up, Chief Jennings.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Obviously the past nearly 24 hours have been heavy on the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, the Marshal Service, but heavy on our community and heavy on our country. We shared yesterday that there were a total of 8 officers shot while performing their duties yesterday to simply serve a warrant. Unfortunately, 4 of those officers succumbed to their injuries. I want to recognize all of those officers. The North Carolina Department of Adult Corrections, Samuel Pelosi. North Carolina Department of Adult Corrections, William Alden Elliott. CMPD Officer Joshua Iyer. And Deputy United States Marshal Thomas Weeks. Also, I mentioned the other officers that were injured and shot while performing their duties as well. I want to give an update on those officers and their names and how they're doing. Officer Chris Tolley is an 18-year veteran of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department in recruit class 149. He underwent surgery last night. He's still recovering in the hospital, but he is in stable condition. Officer Mike Giglio, a 3-year-old CMPD veteran and member of the recruit class 188. He was treated with a gunshot wound injury at the hospital and released yesterday. Officer Jack Blowers has been with CMPD for 1 year and a member of the recruit class 194. He was also treated with gunshot wound injuries and released yesterday. Officer Joshua Campbell, who was not shot but been with CMPD since 2020, a member of recruit class 186. He was treated for a broken foot and he was discharged this morning. I can't tell you how much I'm grateful for these officers and their heroic act. We saw what I mentioned yesterday, officers going into the line of fire to save their brothers in blue who have gone down in the act of trying to keep our community safe. To me, that's truly heroic when you hear the gunshots and the rapid fire and they're running directly into it because they know that there are people that need help, and they risk their own lives to do that. As I mentioned also, this is continuing to be an active and ongoing investigation. There's going to be some answers that aren't going to be able to be given, some questions that will linger at least for until we are able to get this investigation a little bit more complete. But I will tell you that there are, we talk about the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force. There are 16 agencies that are involved in that task force. CMPD is one of those agencies. We currently have a sergeant assigned to that task force who was on the scene as well. Our investigators have worked through the night. The house is still being processed. You have to understand the amount of evidence that's going to be collected. Probably well over 100 rounds of gunfire or of projectiles and casings that will be collected. But what I will say is that we did recover so far on the scene an AR-15 rifle, a 40 caliber handgun, and also additional magazines and ammo that goes both with the AR-14 and the 40 caliber handgun. We do know that the suspect that was shot and killed was the individual that the warrant was for and was going to be arrested for possession of firearm by a convicted felon. And we are still working through additional parts of that investigation. 2 females that were inside the residence that I mentioned yesterday who came out eventually, they are fully cooperating with the investigation. They have been talked to by the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department homicide detectives, and we are not looking or interested in any additional suspects or any persons of interest. We feel like we have everyone involved that was at the house that we need to speak with. Also, indication right now is that 12 CMPD officers fired their service weapon during this incident. All 12 of those officers have been placed on administrative leave and will also continue to be investigated as far as interviews, both internally and within the criminal and internal investigation, which is standard for an officer-involved shooting. So this is certainly a tragedy that's going to impact, I would say, our country for a very long time. It's a scar on Charlotte, but a scar that won't heal. We're a resilient profession and a resilient city, and we will certainly get through this. But it will take time, and it will take support from all of our community as our officers continue to keep our community safe even through this tragedy. So thank you, and I'll turn it over back to Lieutenant Petrus.
Thank you, Chief. Our next speaker is the Director of the United States Marshal Service. That's Director Ron Davis.
Good morning, and thank you, for coming. I don't think words can describe the amount of pain that the Marshal Service and all of its members, the court family, law enforcement in general, this community, and communities around the country are feeling with such a loss. The Chief mentioned for the first time we were releasing the name of Deputy Weeks. Let me tell you something about this hero. Thomas Weeks is a Deputy United States Marshal. He was 48 years old. He is survived by his wife, Kelly, and has 4 children. He was transferred to this district, the Western District of North Carolina, in 2018. So he served 6 years here, although he's been with the agency for some 13 years. We did send out a release with more information along with the photo for you. And I want to make sure that people remember him and the other 3 officers that have perished in this incident. He was assigned to, as I mentioned, the Western District of North Carolina, but he was also assigned to our Fugitive Task Force. And let me just say something quickly about the task force to understand the context in which they operate. As was mentioned, there are over 16 agencies in the task force that covers North Carolina. We have 56 district task forces, 8 regional task forces around the country, and it is an example of what we've seen yesterday of how local, state, and federal law enforcement come together, share resources, make sure that the force multiplier, removing those violent and most dangerous from our community and the safety of our community. And that's what happened yesterday. And so we'll give you, in the future, give you more information about the task force, but Deputy Weeks was serving on that task force, as do hundreds, if not thousands, of deputies and officers around the country every day. Even right now as we speak, there are thousands of deputies and task force officers serving our communities, trying to bring to justice those that are responsible for some of the most heinous crimes in our society. And I want you to just pause a moment and please offer your thoughts and prayers and think about them and their families and everybody that suffered yesterday. We didn't just have a bad day for the community. This is a loss for the entire country. I have been in conversations with the Attorney General of the United States as well as the Deputy Attorney General of the United States to make sure we offer all resources and support necessary to the police department as they continue and to our law enforcement partners. And I want to personally thank all the law enforcement officers from the agency that responded. As more and more comes out about this incident, not only will you see how brave they were, you will see examples of that courage and bravery. Let there be no mistake, they represent the best of us. They are truly America's finest, and it's just an honor to serve with them. I will meet with the family later today, a meeting that no leader, director, or police chief ever wants to have. Losing a deputy, using task force officers is like losing a family member, because quite frankly, they are family members. I don't have many words at this time other than say that inside my agency that I'm going to ask the men and women of the United States Marshals Service to continue their steadfast commitment to the American people, to continue the outstanding job that you do, and know and witness this amount of support you have. This community, the Charlotte Mecklenburg community, has been tremendous. Thank you very much for that. It is not going unnoticed, and I think the entire nation will see that, and we are appreciative for that. Thank you.
Mr. Director, thank you. Next speaker is Governor, State of North Carolina, Governor Roy Cooper. Governor.
Thank you, Lieutenant, Chief, Director, Attorney General, Mayor, fellow North Carolinians. I'm also joined here today with our Secretary of the Department of Public Safety, Eddie Buffalo, and our Secretary of the Department of Adult Correction, Todd Ishii. Yesterday, 8 families had to be told that their loved one had been shot in the line of duty. It was news they hoped would never come. Tragically, 4 of those families have made the ultimate sacrifice. Yesterday, North Carolina and this country lost 4 heroes and saw 4 other heroes wounded. For these members of this U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force and the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police on patrol who responded so quickly and so bravely when help was needed, dangerous assignments are part of the job, but they step up and do it anyway to protect our communities and protect our families. The investigation into this tragic, brutal, deadly attack will result in more answers that we don't know today. And I expect it to find those answers and to help bring to justice people for these needless deaths of these brave officers. We can never, ever fill the void that they leave behind, and we can never fully thank them for what they do to keep us safe. But today, we can remember them and honor their lives, help their families, and support their fellow officers. Among those killed were 4 public servants. 2 of them were state employees, task force members with the Department of Adult Correction, Sam Pelosi and Alden Elliott, U.S. Marshal Thomas Weeks, and Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Officer Joshua Ayers. Those who died were dedicated to this work, and we're grateful for their bravery and courage. Yesterday, I met with some of the fellow officers and heard stories about these officers who lost their lives. They were good ones, people that you could trust, people who you could count on, and people who would risk their lives. And at the hospital, I also met with some of the families of those killed in the line of duty, and I met one of the wounded officers. What I told them was that the people of North Carolina are grateful for their sacrifice. Together we prayed, together we gave words of comfort. But I know that the emptiness left behind in these families will continue to run deep. And I ask that North Carolinians pray for these families and their law enforcement colleagues who are left behind in this tragedy, and to support those law enforcement officers that they've left behind. Our state will be with you for the next few days, weeks, months, and years ahead. I've received calls from all over the country, from President Biden, from federal and state cabinet secretaries, other governors across the country. They've offered any assistance that we might need. And our state will continue to offer resources and support as needed in the days and weeks ahead. And as we seek to heal and make sense of all of this devastation, as we seek justice, as we work to make our communities safer, I want to offer my deepest thanks to law enforcement at every level who continue to wake up every morning ready to serve despite the dangers that come with it. Our families are thankful, our communities are thankful, our state is thankful. May God bless you and the souls we lost. May God bless North Carolina and the United States of America.
Thank you, Mr. Governor. The next speaker is the Attorney General for the state of North Carolina, the Honorable Joshua Stein.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Good morning, everyone. Chief Jennings, thank you for convening us to honor these fallen officers. Governor Cooper, thank you for your moving words. U.S. Marshal Director Davis, Mayor Lyles, thank you all for your leadership in this exceptionally trying time. Today is a day of heartbreak in North Carolina. 4 peace officers were killed in the line of duty yesterday and 4 more wounded. CMPD officer Joshua Iyer, Deputy Marshal Thomas Weeks, and 2 task force officers from the Department of Adult Corrections, Officer Sam Pelosi and Alden Elliott. Although our words are insufficient, we offer our most sincere gratitude for their selfless service, and we mourn their ultimate sacrifice. As we honor these officers, local, state, and federal, we also honor their families, who've now been forced to pay a heavy toll as well. We ask our peace officers to do something that is awe-inspiring, to run into the face of danger that every human urge is telling them to flee. But they do it to keep us safe. They engage the public, they patrol, they investigate, and they make arrests so that our kids can learn safely at school, play safely in the neighborhood, and sleep safely in their homes. But to serve and protect can come with fatal consequences, as we were tragically reminded yesterday here in Charlotte. The people of Charlotte have suffered an immeasurable loss. But I know Charlotte and all of North Carolina is full of the kind of people who will rally and take care of each other. So even though this city is mourning and in pain today, I'm certain that this community will not only come together to support each other, but to surround the families and friends and colleagues of these officers with the love that they need and deserve. The people of Charlotte are strong and will rise to the occasion. Thank you all. May God bless each of you. Embrace the families of the 4 murdered officers and heal the 4 who were injured. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney General. Our next speaker and final speaker is our very own Mayor Lyles, Mayor of the City of Charlotte.
I want to say thank you to the governor, to our marshal leader, to our attorney general, especially to our police chief, for all that you've done in the last 48 hours. I want to thank each of you for coming out here today. I think you'll hear words that are important for us to heal. We're grateful that you have the presence here. I hope that everyone has an opportunity to tell a story that will connect us together again. To the men and women in law enforcement, we acknowledge your bravery, your commitment, your willingness to stand where others will not. To our healthcare providers, you did all that was possible, and we're grateful for that you're able to keep watch over those that are still in your care, and for those that had to take that journey home. We're really grateful. If you had to stand in Atrium and Novant and see the kinds of things that these doctors were reaching out to do, you would be grateful. As a community, I am grateful as your mayor. I want you to know that as we escorted Officer Eileen out, that the healthcare individual stood beside the wall. There were as many tears as you could imagine from the healthcare providers as it was for our officers, for the people that really understand and know this. I think that the healthcare providers were exceptional in their commitment to all of us. To the 4 families who gave that ultimate sacrifice, I want you to know we see you. We support you, not just today, but in the many days that are coming. Officer Eiler, his wife Ashley, his darling son Andrew. Today we say our prayers as we get through this difficult time, but we as a community have to remember that at some point we have to give this back to those families, and I hope that we will all support. I want you to know that the President Biden did contact me last night to be sure that he wanted us to know that he cares about the people in this community, especially those that are no longer with us. I want to thank the mayors across this country for the texts. I've seen flowers laid at the police department's front door. I've seen words spoken that bring to all of us a sense of peace. I know that this community will continue to believe in the good, and there'll be many ways to express what we care about, especially our police and law enforcement officers. But I ask every one of you individually, let's just take a moment of silence right now and think about how we can believe in what's good, how we can believe and support those families that will need us so much in the future. Charlotte isn't going to be the last place that this happens, but Charlotte will be the place that will heal with dignity and respect for everyone. Thank you very much for this time to express what we believe in this community, our values, our hope, and our prayers. Thank you.